Okay, I think I would like you to be able to follow along with what I'm doing. So what I'll do is, well, first thing is I don't need that sketch in the background. I prefer the tilt of the cat's head there. So I will slide to the left. Where it says delete, I will delete. My background color is chosen. I want to export this out to you as a PNG file, which basically means I can preserve transparency. If you want to get something out of Procreate, but you want a transparent background, this is what you do. You come to your background color, you see the little tick mark, you tick it so it turns off, and you get this. Anywhere you've drawn something, that will show up. You come to the little wrench icon, and you come to where it says share. Now for this, you want a transparent background, so you can't export out a JPEG, you export out a PNG. I've named this file feeding time 01 sketch. I'll come to AirDrop, I will put it onto my Mac, and I've just copied that file to my iCloud, which we all have because we're using an iPad. So I'll come to my gallery, create a new file, same as I did before, A4 size, turn it around, and then I will come to my wrench icon. I've saved that to the Photos app, so come to Add, insert a photo, there we are, there's the file, tap on that, and it comes in, and I don't want to make any changes to this, so I will just tap on any other icon, like my brush icon, and that's how you can export and import various different files. You can save to photos, you can save to your iCloud, which we all have because we're all using an iPad. But I'll come back to my gallery. Do I want to keep that? No, not really. It was just to show you, so I'll rest my finger on the icon, then slide to the left and press delete. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Let's load up what we had before, turn on our background, and we are good to go. So the next thing, I want to ink this in, don't I? So create a new layer, and come on, let's try and get into the habit. Let's just call this ink. Eventually, you will see me adding more and more layers to this bit of artwork because I want to show you various different things. But it is nice to have at least a few of your layers with names that make it clear what they are. Okay, let's come to our brushes. I'm in the classic library. You do have the classic library. And for this, I'm going to come to ink, and I'm going to come down to this one, ink bleed. I do like this. Let's choose a color for this. As a general rule, I try and avoid complete black. And you know what? I'm in the disk mode at the moment. I'm circling it now. I personally find looking at that bunch of colors in classic mode easier. I can definitely see where the white is, I can definitely see where any blacks are, and I can definitely see where the grays are. I think the disc, it kind of looks cool, and it makes it easy to choose your base color by looking at this circle slider at the top. But with classic, instead of that circle, you have this slider which does the same thing. So in general, I kind of prefer this. I want to choose a brown color, but a very deep brown. I don't want completely black. Black is really good at killing your images a little bit. Now, if I choose something about, say, there, and if you're very worried about following along, look, if I come 1, 2 icons to the left, you can actually enter in numeric values like I've got HSB, that stands for the hue is 14 degrees, the saturation is 81 degrees, the brightness is 12 degrees, and if I tap on any one of those, I can enter in numeric values. But I'll come back to the classic tab, and for our purposes, I want a deep brown. Now let's take a look at this. Before I start using it, let's try a few brush strokes, and that is why I like it. It's got a very rough edge to it, but also it's got a nice thick and thin. The second rule of creating anything good is blend opposites, and thick and thin is a huge one. Look, thin, thick, thin. That line has so much more character in it than a line which is just the same width with no rough bits. I want a little bit of character. Now, is that the right size? I think that might be a little bit big for me. Let's try taking this down to what? Say around 25%, and thick and thin. Yeah, I prefer that, but I am going to want some different brush sizes when I work on this layer because, again, I want plenty of thick and thin. So, do what we did before. Rest your pen on that little slider, then click on the plus sign. So now I've got 25% there, a few strokes. Now, what other brush size do I want? Let's try 10%. And I'm letting that play with that original brush. Let's zoom in a little bit. I'm seeing how that thinner brush stroke looks against the thicker brush stroke. I think I can even make it a little bit. Let's try 8%. Yeah, I prefer that. I'm not looking at the form. All I'm doing here is just looking at the thickness of what I've got there and comparing it with the thickness of that other brush stroke and thinking, do they look nice next to each other? And I think they do, so I'll repeat what I've done. Tap on the little button on the slider and click the plus size. So now life has got easier. I can just tap on either of these two brush sizes and I don't have to worry about playing what on earth brush size did I do there. Let's come to our ink layer and clear it. Let's come to the larger brush size. And now, because I worked out my form with a sketch underneath, I don't have to worry about the form now. All I need to worry about is just putting down some characterful lines like this. I'm going to try and make it so that I don't leave any gaps, because I'll probably want to flood this area. And flooding is another thing which really gets new people or new users really quite confused. Now, here's the thing about digital art, if you remember, how to control your brush strokes. I want a thinner area here. I want one or two little sharp, pointy areas. So make sure ink bleed is chosen. We'll do what we did before. Just rest your finger or your pen on the erase icon until you get that little message, erase with current brush. That is too big. Let's make it smaller and make sure it's on 100%, because now I can come in and I can just trim these edges. Remember, it is digital, and when it's gone for good. And I'm not damaging the surface of my paper in any way. So that's a very fundamental technique with digital art. Paint on, paint off. Let's come back to our brush, and I'm varying the pressure because I really want that thick and thin. Let's put that notch in there, which is very characteristic of a cat. That little notch in the ear. Come back to my eraser and just tighten it up. I'm not going to tighten up absolutely every brush stroke because, frankly, there's not enough hours in the day. But that little notch is going to catch people's eye. And as you learn more about drawing, you'll figure out which bits of your drawing are going to catch people's eye. Those are the bits you want to be a little bit careful with to show them what you want them to see. It could be fast, loose brush strokes. These ears here, this is the kind of area where people are going to look. So these are the bits where I just want to trim up some of these brush strokes. So I'm getting some sharper points against the more rounded or the more gentle curves, and that should build up a characterful area. Now, I think I've said everything I wanted to say in terms of general advice when you're doing inking in. Oh, and hopefully it goes without saying, be careful to zoom in. The zoom tool is your friend, but also frequently zoom out to see how what you just put down looks compared to the picture as a whole. Like you might find by the time you get down to this area, you're getting very confident, so you're pressing down harder like this, and you don't realise you've done that until you zoom out and realise those pores are a lot heavier than the line work at the top. So zoom in, yes, by all means for detail, but also zoom out to see the picture as a whole and how you doing your little bit down there is affecting everything. Oh, incidentally, if you can hear a clicking sound in the background, I'm backing up my other computer to a couple of hard drives. They're making clicking sounds and frankly being annoying. And also if I start sneezing or start sounding a little bit nasal, that's because I've managed to develop a bit of a head cold in between the previous video and this one. So if I do sound a bit bunged up, I am sorry. Oh, now here's a good case in point. I'm going to zoom in as close in as I can get, but if you look at this line here where I sketched, that makes the top of this left ear look a little bit thicker than the right ear. Now that would make sense because that right ear is a little bit further away, and when you're doing a cartoon thing like this, you naturally tend to exaggerate the sizes of things. If things are going to be a little bit smaller, you make a little bit more small than they would appear in real life. So this is no biggie, but it's just something to be aware of. So, whoops, that's way too thick. And I'm just moving my hand quick and slow, and it's almost like I have a slightly jittery hand. Like I'm deliberately putting a bit of a tremble in there just to get that characterful line. Now, I was talking about thick and thin, but look, these bits here where you're going to get one or two little shadow areas, that's a good candidate for making the lines a little bit thicker just in this area. Just adding a little bit of very gentle shading, just to give the suggestion of shadows where the light disappears down the ear hole. It's thick and thin, it's creating character. I can carry on doing this around the outside. There will come a certain point where I'll just fade out and fade back in again, because you're not really doing anything other than watch me draw, and I'm not saying anything new. But one thing I will do from now is, certainly the fur on the inside, I'm going to come to my slider on the left. I'm going to choose my narrower brush, because this fur on the inside I think needs to be a little bit slightly finer fur. I think the eyes and the major details like the mouth and the nose, I think they should be the original thickness, because they do need to be quite strong. They are known as key lines. But the inner fur here I think would be a little bit too thick and too bold, and all it's really doing is separating out what's going to be the white bib from the brown of the body. So that's a good candidate for getting some of that, what are we calling it? Thick and thin. It's just going to make the line work look more dynamic. Now come back to our original size, and let's put that nose in. I don't want it to be too bold. And press light and press harder. That naturally gives me that little bit down the middle of the nose, and slightly heavy and fading away, and slightly heavy and fading away. Now for the eyes, that was created by assisted drawing. Remember, we did the ellipse and the circle. And so I'm worried that, look, if I do this, basically I just take a deep breath and just draw that. You might find that hard though, because it does require a certain amount of confidence to be able to just draw like that. Okay, there's my jittery brush stroke. Undo that. If I come to my ink bleed brush and I'm going to tap again on the icon, I come into the brush studio. These are all the parameters that make up every single brush inside Procreate, and I have a massive tutorial about them on the Solid Foundations course, and there's a link with a discount in the description below. But the one I want is stabilisation. And I'm going to come to this one which says motion filtering, and I'm going to increase the amount to what? Around 67 to 68%. I'm going to try and make that same jittery brush stroke that I did before. Watch what happens. Ooh, it's averaging out the natural tremors of my hand. And what that means, if I two-finger tap to undo that, if I come back and draw here, I'm drawing fairly nice and light, it evens out my brush stroke, so I get a smoother brush stroke. And draw, trace around the outside. It doesn't have to go exact. Remember, this is just a cartoon, but you get more even brush strokes. And the nice thing about it is it also takes into account your thick and thin. So I can do this, I can press hard, I can press soft, and I get a really great, colourful, characterful line. And it's all nice and smooth. So if ever you find yourself really wanting, let's try that again, to get a smooth brush stroke, take note of this. All right, now let's try going around the outside. The trick to this, I think, is take a deep breath. No, don't take a deep breath. Take one or two calming breaths, get yourself into a nice, relaxed, zen state of mind, and just draw. And if you don't get it the first time, it's really not a problem. You can just come back in, two-finger tap, and redo it. Okay, so now I've got some cleanup to do, don't I? So come to my eraser, and the nose is in front of the eye. Oh, now, yes. Now that I've done that, I'm going to take this down, because while that motion filtering or any of the stabilizations are really good for getting nice, smooth brush strokes, when I need my fine, fiddly control because I'm neatening up things, that same ultra smooth brush stroke just frankly gets in the way. Let's do that. Let's do this, just come close to the edge and just shave off those stray bits. And I'm nearly there with those eyes, but I do want to tweak them just a little bit. Come again to my liquify tool for my adjustments panel. Let's make it big. Make sure we're on push. We're not on twirl or expand or crystals. Again, that's one of the things I explain on the Solid Foundations course. In general, you want to make your brush size as big as you can get away with. But for this, let's see, is that the right size? No, I want this to be smaller because I want a little bit more of a point on this side of the eye because that's what I've got on my closer eye. I also want to make this conform to the nose because the nose is in front, and so that bit of the eye is going to be partially obscured. While I'm here, I'm looking at the pupils, look at the general tilt of the head, make my brush size bigger. I'm being rather pernickety here, but I'm just trying to match those pupils up a little bit. Maybe pull that bit down here so we've got slightly more of a teardrop shape. If it's just me drawing, I can spend all the time I want doing this, but you're watching this and time is moving on, so I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll commit to that by coming back to my brush tool, and what do cats have? They have a little kind of a bump just there on the nose. I'll try that, and I'll try just erasing this bit here, because isn't it great that once it's gone for good? And yeah, I prefer that. Okay, so now all that remains for me to do is to carry on around the outline, varying my brush size. I'm keeping my brush strokes fast, all right? I'm trying to keep them fast and flicky. That's how I'm getting the character. Look, if I was to come to the back and I draw because I'm nervous and I draw slowly and carefully like this, it's killing the character stone dead. That's too heavy. 2-finger tap to undo that, please. And so I'm trying to keep it, well, my brush is fairly light and fast. I already have all the information I need from my blue sketch in the background. This is just the bit where I just enjoy the thick and thin. And what I'll do is I'll come back to you once I've done the outline. Okay, I think I've got to a certain point with this. Oh, hang on. Just a little bit under the chin, like this. Now, you notice in one or two places, like, say, the back of the cat's tail, just this bit here, I've done very little fur in that area. In fact, I think I'll just take out this bit. Because if you think about a cat's tail, when it's at that angle, the fur's going to bunch up slightly. It's going to compress together. Compare it with the back end of the tail, that fur is getting stretched out, so it's naturally going to start to lift up a little bit. And maybe I need to just put in one or two little slightly sharp areas, because if I've done sharp bits in one part of the picture and this fur is the same kind of fur, then maybe I should do it in one or two other parts of the picture. Use your discretion with that. It's a guideline. It's not a hard rule that you should do the same thing in different parts of the picture. I think I've got everything I want there. Let's come to our sketch layer and turn it off. There's our cat inked in. I think in the next video we should start putting some colours in there. What do you think? I hope you're enjoying this. If you're enjoying my instruction, there's some links below to take you to some top-rated courses with a discount applied. And in the meantime, if you could like and subscribe, that would do me a huge favour, and I will see you in the next video.